Morning and welcome to our thought for the day. I'd like to read you a verse from John chapter 5, please. And it's verse 8. And it says this: Jesus saith unto him, Rise, take up your bed, and walk. Simple little heading I've given this morning is this: does God ask you to do the impossible? It may seem a strange heading for our thought today. Does God ask you to do the impossible? Or we may say, you got it the wrong way around, Pastor. We ask God to do the impossible. God doesn't ask us to do the impossible. But I want us this morning to consider a few people through God's word who God asked to do the impossible. Why did he ask them to do the impossible? Because he would receive glory and honor through what they did. And I believe that there are times in our lives when God will ask you and God will ask me to do the impossible. And as we trust him and have faith in him, God will enable us to do the impossible. And all the glory and all the praise and all the honor will go to him and to him alone. You see, very often I've said, God doesn't ask you to do something that is impossible. I've said it many times. And that sounds reasonable, it sounds spiritual, and yet it's not strictly true. For the truth is this morning, friends, is that God is forever asking his true followers, his true people, to do the impossible. And we have read of such a case this morning there in John chapter 5, verse 8, and there are many others. Remember when he said to the man who was let down to the roof by his 4 friends, he says, Arise, take up your bed, and walk. And he did it. He did the impossible. It was the very thing he couldn't do, and he did the impossible. A man in our text that we read earlier, as Christ walked through the porches of the pool of Bethesda, he said to this crippled man, who laid there, we are told, for 38 years. 38 years. He says, Rise, take up your bed, and walk. And you notice what happened again? He did it. He did it. He did the impossible. 38 years he had been in the situation like he was, helpless. And yet when God came, when God spoke, then he was able to do the impossible. And it may be years that you have spent in a situation that you feel is absolutely impossible, and yet God can make it possible today. He can allow you, through his power, to do the impossible. He said to the man with the withered hand, Stretch forth thine hand. And do you know what he did? He stretched it forth. He did the impossible. You see, the fact is, if someone else said to you, do it, you couldn't do it. Doesn't matter who the person is. But when Christ says to do it, it's wonderful. Because the fact that he said means that you can. When he says, you can, and you will. Christ says to Peter and the rest of the disciples, he says, launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a draught. But the disciples protest. The disciple says, Master, we have toiled all night and we have caught nothing. Then they said, Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net. It's impossible, Master. We've been toiling all night. We know what we're doing. We're professionals at what we do. But because you say, I will do it. And they did it. And they caught a multitude of fishes. The truth is, friends, we can only do the impossible when he says to do it. We must remember each day that all things are possible with God. All things are possible. And that through his mercy and love and grace, he uses you and he uses me to do the impossible. We must realize that God is forever asking us to do something that is impossible. Again, I give you the reason. He asks us to do that which is impossible so that we can see his faithfulness, experience his power, and that we become strong in our faith and give glory to his mighty name. God is asking you to do the impossible. Whatever way it may be, he's asking you to do the impossible. Trust him. Trust in his word. And you will see the impossible come to pass. God bless you. I look forward to speaking with you again tomorrow morning, the same time, same place.